So, okay, mind. Generally speaking, in Buddhism, you can say it's synonymous with the word consciousness, number one. Number two, this mind of ours, in Buddhist terms, there's not one atom of physicality about it. It's not physical. It's interesting. In the Christian view, we talk about this part of you called the soul that isn't physical, isn't it? Then we have the materialist view, which is there is simply the brain, simply the DNA, the genes, and that's it. So these two views. Well, Buddhism is neither of these. Buddhism has the view that all of the mind, all of the mind, and what that word refers to is the entire spectrum of our inner experiences: intellect, thoughts, concepts, feelings, emotions, unconscious, subconscious, spirit, whatever you want to call, instinct, intuition, you name it. All of this is encompassed by the term mind in Buddhism, or consciousness, okay? The other point about this mind of ours, or about any part of our mind, which is where it again radically differs from all other religious views, is there's not one atom of our being that's created by a superior being, God, Buddha, whatever you like. Nothing, not possible. Buddha says it's just not on. It's just his view, from his own experience has discovered this to be the truth. And the other interesting point, which is where it differs radically again from all the Western psychological views, is there's not one atom of our mind, our personality, our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, that's created by mum and dad. I mean, big surprise. We have to stop blaming them, okay? There's no part of our mind that comes from our mother and father. Clearly the body does. Thank you, mother and father. They provide us with an egg and sperm, which is the basis of this body. How fortunate we are. So, in Buddhist terms, your mind isn't physical. Doesn't come from mum and dad, doesn't come from God or Buddha or any other superior being. Clearly it can't come from nothing. We all know that anything you point to in this universe has a continuity. This thing here comes from metal and plastic and goes back and back. This cup, the same. The flowers, everything has a continuity. Suddenly there's one moment nothing and then one moment a flower. We all know that's absurd. So clearly with the mind it's not possible. Same thing. So mind or consciousness, not physical. Comes from a previous moments of itself. It's like a river of mental moments. Mental continuum, they call it, This whole idea of mind being beginningless. Because if you follow this concept through now, intellectually, conceptually, you can't find any conclusion other than the fact that the mind has to be beginningless. Because this process of cause and effect, chicken and egg. How can you have a first chicken? Okay, Christians and Muslims and all the most religions point to God as the source. Where do I come from? From God. Buddha says no. You come from previous moments of your own consciousness. So if you trace it back and you think, well, maybe it began 32 years ago. Maybe it began 52 lives ago. Any given moment you say maybe it began then. You have to say there was a moment of mind existing. So if it existed then, it has to have come from a previous moment, doesn't it? Conclusion, your consciousness is beginningless. This is the Buddhist idea. Okay, the other point that's so crucial is this idea of Buddha nature. What does this mean? Because the big question, we all have these questions. We say, who am I? What is my purpose? Why am I here? Okay, Buddha says the answer to those questions is to be a Buddha. What's Buddha? Buddha is Sanskrit. It means fully awake. And actually, all it's referring to is the fully developed consciousness, mind, beyond which it can't be developed further. What Buddha means is a mind, a being, a consciousness that's fully developed in all, simply speaking, in all what we call the positive qualities, and absolutely free of the negative ones. So simple. There's a simple way of saying. And what Buddha is saying is that is who we really are. We all possess, the term they use is we all possess Buddha nature. Well, the simple way of saying this is this, that it's like, let's use the analogy of an acorn. Mummy, what's that, Oh, well, darling, that's an acorn. What's an acorn, Mummy? Well, then she points to the oak tree. Well, that will become that. Oh, how interesting, So then when you mightn't say, what's the nature of an acorn? You might just say, what is it? When you see an acorn, what you're really seeing is a potential oak tree, isn't it? You're not some, it's a cute little brown thing. Sure, you could use it for this and that, and you could use it for jewelry, you could use it as a weapon if you like, but kind of how dumb. What it really is, isn't it? You see, what its true nature is, we don't use those words, but you listen to it. What it really is a potential oak tree. So how foolish not to develop into an oak tree. How ridiculous, isn't it? Well, that's what Buddha's saying. Mind, consciousness, which is indestructible, which is not created, its true nature, what it really is a potential Buddha, a fully developed mind. It's not as if we have a choice about it. You have an option. It's not as if some people like Mother Teresa are born to be Buddhas, you know, kind of like potluck. Not like that. No, by definition, an acorn is something that if you give it all the appropriate conditions, will become an oak tree. It's not as if you can turn it into an apple tree if you want to. How stupid. So this is the attitude we have to slowly develop about ourselves. What's kind of interesting now is because we don't really know who we really are, Buddha says. We identify with this little kind of brown, undeveloped thing. Well, I'm this, I'm that, I'm lazy, I'm fat, I'm human, I'm female, I'm no good, I'm special, I'm delicious, I'm ugly, I'm beautiful, you name it. We're kind of defining ourselves by this little brown thing. How boring, how stupid, how short tunnel vision, you know. A Buddha, which is your true nature, which is what your oak tree is, when you're fully developed, you'll have the fully developed two wings. Infinite empathy with all living beings, beyond which, you know, totally developed. Beyond which you can't develop it further. And this empathy would be such as if they were all you. There's no separation. Huge empathy, huge wish, spontaneous wish to benefit each one perfectly. Second, you'd have fully developed wisdom wing, which literally in Buddhist terms is called omniscience. My mum thought this was very arrogant. Only God is omniscient. But Buddha says every living being, if you possess mind, your mind has the potential to know everything. So this is just something totally natural, Buddha says, that our mind has the capacity to literally know everything. And when we have fully removed all the pollution from the mind, all the delusions, then our mind will be in sync with reality, quite literally. Buddha says we're way out of sync with reality right now because of all the pollution in the mind. So we'll be fully developed, we'll be omniscient. Omniscient, infinite compassion, and there's a third quality, not a wing, that's called literally, if you like, omnipotence. The effortless power to do whatever needs to be done to benefit each one of these countless living beings in the entire universe, to benefit them perfectly based on the wisdom that sees their minds perfectly and knows precisely what to do and how to benefit them. And that would include, in fact, the capacity to manifest your own mind, your Buddha mind, in millions of forms throughout millions of universes for millions of eons as long as suffering sentient beings exist. That's a Buddha, okay? That's enlightenment. Enlightenment isn't just some kind of nice feeling, okay? It's a little bit more than that. This is enlightenment. And Buddha says that's your true nature. That's who you can become. That simply is naturally who you really are. You're not it yet, but this whole idea of once you really appreciate what an acorn really is, you will treat it with such respect. And this is the attitude we have to develop about ourselves. It's hugely inspiring, actually, which is why it's so important to hear this very first.